Hi friends, today we're going to be looking at the work of photographer Dan Tom, who is a travel and landscape photographer, and maybe my favorite landscape photographer. In fact, he has the effect on me that he makes me want to become a landscape photographer while simultaneously making me want to kill myself with a samurai sword because I'll just never measure up. He is what I would like to call a master of the organized composition, and I will explain what that means as we work through some of his photos today. In this first photo, you see a glorious beach scene with cliffs and red flowers or brush, not sure, and rolling hills in the background, then a faded blue sky. This photo is a fantastic example of the thoughtful organization that you can tell he's engaging in as he's taking a scene and turning it into a photo that in fact looks like a painting in the end. You can tell he's looking at the scene, first organizing it in his brain, and then taking his camera, using it as a tool to convey that organized image into a photo that is emotionally engaging. What he leaves out of this scene is just as important as what he leaves in the scene, and also his angle on which he is shooting this scene is incredibly important as well. This next photo is an example of the minimalistic quality that a lot of his work has. Even in scenes that have a lot of elements, it feels so organized that it feels very minimalistic. One major way I can tell he organizes the elements in his scene is by using a knowledge of color theory and how colors work together. Here we have a hill or mountain, can't quite tell the exact scale of what we're looking at, but you see a warm tone on the ground, and then it's broken up by these white clouds, and then on top we have a blue sky. The reason why we like this photo, and if you don't, that means that you don't have any feelings and you should go see a therapist, is because it is naturally aesthetically pleasing to us. There are inherent principles that go all throughout art and its execution throughout history that are based on the way we perceive the world around us and the way that it compels us. This is why guidelines are not everything, but they are important in art. We have a guideline in society that you shouldn't knock over the local 7-Eleven, but sometimes it makes sense to. This photo is another example of the same thing. There are more elements in this photo, but they still feel wonderfully organized and minimalistic. Remember that whole samurai sword story from earlier? This photo does that. There are many shades, but there are three major colors in this photo, which is blue, green, and white. And also, this is another example of a very interesting angle. He's out on the water, looking at it in a way that I think that many photographers may not look at it as. These next couple of photos demonstrate the way he integrates subjects into his work oftentimes. Here we have a scene with a group of three, which is always a good thing. They're standing around a boat looking out onto the horizon, just enjoying themselves. Here we have a similar scene, much smaller subject in this case. In both photos, the subjects are centered, which I find interesting. The way he uses subjects in his photos I find interesting as well. It feels less like a photo of a person with an interesting background and more like the subject is an integrated and intimate part of the scene as a whole. You're looking at a photo that is a relationship between people and the scene that they are in. In this photo we have a beautiful mountain scene. We have the path which creates a leading line which makes this photo incredibly strong. We have the warm tones of the brown grass and then the green bushes scattered throughout, which is very aesthetically intriguing. One thing that I find incredibly interesting about this photo as well is that it is split almost perfectly down the middle. On the bottom you have these warm tones, on the top you have these brilliant but also very pastel bluish tones and clouds flying around. And also interesting geometry of the mountains. When you think about this photo in this way and break it apart like I'm doing, it makes sense why we would enjoy this photo. Another example of a rather similar scene, except in this case, almost all the tones are very warm, with a single blue streak of water roaming through the middle, in the same way that the path meanders through the photo in the last one. Very interesting geometry in this photo and a very immersive atmosphere, which leads me to the next thread that runs throughout all of his work, which is atmosphere. In this photo we have these vibrant filmic colors which makes this photo have an immersive atmospheric quality to it. It makes you feel the scene just as much as you see this scene. And I think this photo is a glorious example of an organized composition, a very atmospheric quality, the use of subjects as an integrated part of the overall scene, and what was the last thing? Oh, beautiful color balancing. Dan Tom, you have fantastic work and you are a talented storyteller. You deserve a cupcake, good sir. For everyone who is watching, thank you so much for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Goodbye.